Hello everybody, my name's Nicola and welcome back to my channel. This is the Frugal Cottage, where we talk all things money to help you on your financial journey. I have made it to the end of my Eat for £10 a week challenge at Aldi. So don't forget to like and subscribe and let's get started. So yes, I managed to get through the whole week on my £10 budget. In fact, I spent £9.95 in total. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all the meals I had during the week, show you or talk through what I have left over, and then just general lessons from this during this process. Let me know down below before we start, what do you think I'm left with? What do you think I've got left over? I'll give you a hint, it's more than one thing, if that's not too vague. So yes, I'm going to show you now what I ate during the week, day by day. Some of them are repeats, so sometimes I haven't filmed it just because it's exactly the same as the day before. But this gives you an idea of what I ate throughout the week on £10. Okay, so I've already had to be back in Aldi already. So this is day one of the challenge, and I got up for breakfast and realised I'd not got any kind of tea or coffee. Which, if you know me, is an absolute disaster. I cannot do without tea and coffee. So I went to Aldi this morning before breakfast. The only tea that I could afford, this is the kind of their own brand. There's 80 tea bags in here. This cost me 95 pence, quite a big chunk of the leftover budget. And so with the remaining, I've also got some instant noodles and chicken. I'll have those, I think, with some of the frozen veg to make it slightly better. It does mean that I'm not able to have any fruit or extra fruit. And this is what's left. I'm left with 5 pence remaining, which I don't think I'm going to be able to spend. So yeah, so 95 pence on tea bags, and then the noodles I think were 22 pence. Okay, so I didn't eat breakfast this morning, so this is meal number one. At lunchtime I've got 2 slices of toast with peanut butter and a banana. I've also got a big glass of water. I would normally have tea with this, but it's really hot today, so I've decided to have water instead. So this is the first one. It isn't what I'd normally choose for lunch, but I quite like peanut butter on toast, so here's hoping that this version is okay. And a banana never hurts anybody. For day one, and this is tea time, I'm having the instant noodles with a fairly substantial addition of frozen veg. This doesn't look too bad. It looks a bit like the meals I used to eat as a student all that time ago. And there's kind of, you can't see it there particularly, but there is some kind of a bit of stock left from cooking them. So I'm pretending in my mind that this is some kind of ramen noodle broth thing instead. But yeah, so this is tea day one. Okay, so day two, breakfast, we've got one of the porridge sachets and a cup of tea. Now, I think I've put too much milk in the porridge. It seems quite watery. Well, I did it with half milk and half water to save some milk, but it seems, I think I put too much in there. But it looks okay. I wouldn't normally have breakfast very often. I tend to skip breakfast and just have coffee, but I don't have coffee, so I've got a cup of tea and porridge for day breakfast too. Okay, so this is lunch on day two. The obvious thing to point out here that's missing is the fact that I have no butter on my toast. But I've got a poached egg on toast with a banana. It does look a bit small. I feel like I might be hungry today. But there we go, this is lunch on day two. Okay, so for tea on day two, I've got a fairly small jacket potato, it feels like, with half a tin of the spaghetti hoops. I'm going to follow this with a cup of tea and 2 Jaffa cakes, and that'll be the end of day two. So tea on day three is just the same as yesterday. I've got another jacket potato with spaghetti hoops, followed by, I'm going to have a cup of tea and 2 Jaffa cakes. What I am finding so far is that I am hungry more between meals than normal, so it's an interesting. I've also been working out calories, and I'll go through that at the end of the week, but it's been an interesting process so far. Okay, so it's breakfast day 4, and I've got a banana with one of the yogurts and a cup of tea. I'll be honest, one of the hardest things so far is the repetition of things. So like I'm having the same things or similar things for breakfast, lunch and tea at the moment. Obviously, normally we'd be having a much bigger variety, so that's the biggest thing so far, but this is breakfast day 4. Okay, so lunch on day 4, I've got a cup of tea and I've got a dippy egg with some soldiers. The obvious thing to point out here is that it's missing butter on the toast, and again, it doesn't feel like I'm eating that much. I'm going to follow this with a couple of Jaffa cakes, but that's for lunch for day 4. For tea on day 4, I've got a jacket potato with chilli. This is one of the first portion chilli. I think there's 2 other meals with the chilli as well, but this is a jacket potato with chilli. What is obviously missing is a sprinkle of cheese on the top, but there we go. And I'm not going to have anything afterwards because I had the Jaffa cakes earlier. Day 5 breakfast is one of the instant porridge sachets and a cup of tea. I'm nearly out of milk, which makes me slightly worried for the next 2 days. Also, I definitely feel like I should have bought just porridge oats rather than these instant things, but that's the decision I made at the time. So yeah, this is breakfast day 5. Okay, so for lunch on day 5, I'm having 2 poached eggs on 2 slices of toast, again missing the butter. And also I'm not going to have anything after this because I want to save the Jaffa cakes for tomorrow and Tuesday, and I'm going to have a banana at tea time. So this is just it for lunch today. I'm also going to have a cup of tea, but I'm trying to stretch the milk a bit further as well. Tea on day 5, I've made like a mini shepherd's pie with some of the mince and veg and one of the bacon potatoes. Now the obvious thing to point out here is that there's no gravy at all within this, so my worry for eating this is it's going to just be really dry. But it makes a change. I'm having chilli, so that's it. So this is tea on day 5. I'm going to follow this with a banana, and then that'll be it for day 5. Okay, so for tea on day 6, I've got another jacket potato with some more of the chilli. There's another portion of chilli left for tomorrow as well for day 7. It's the little extras again, so I'm missing butter on the potato and a sprinkling of cheese on the top. This will be followed by the last 2 Jaffa cakes that are left and a cup of tea with the kind of almost the last of the milk. But yeah, this is tea on day 6. This is lunch on day 7, the final lunch, and I'm having some homemade chips and an egg. Now obviously I am in the privileged position of being able to do chips, like homemade chips, which requires the oven to be on for quite a long time. Obviously if you are on a really strict budget, then electricity prices and kind of electricity bills have to come into play, but thankfully I'm in a lucky position where I don't need to think about that. I'm looking forward to this lunch. It seems like a bit of a better lunch than I have had in previous days. And yeah, this is lunch on day 7. Okay, so for tea on day 7, the final meal in this challenge is the last of the chilli with yet another jacket potato. I don't think I've eaten so many jacket potatoes ever, but they are so simple and cheap, and I've been doing them in the microwave, so it doesn't even cost that much in electricity. So yeah, and there's nothing to follow this. I might have a black tea, but that's because I've run out of milk. But this is it, day 7, week of the Eat for £10 a week challenge done. Okay, so they were the meals I had during the week. I think the most kind of obvious thing to say is that there's lots of repetition. I don't think I've ever eaten so many jacket potatoes in 1 week, or things around potatoes anyway, so whether that be the kind of the chips or the jacket potatoes, and I used to do them, so I've done them all in the microwave as well, so the time wise in terms of electricity isn't very long. They're one of the cheapest things to get. I think a pack of the 4 baking potatoes was at 39p for 4, so you know, in terms of budget friendly things, jacket potatoes are one of the easiest ones to do for that. But yeah, the repetition, because I ate basically the same thing for breakfast, lunch and tea. There were obviously variables, but essentially it was all the same thing. And I think for me, the repetition of that, I got bored of that really quickly, and I always think that we kind of eat the same meals, but obviously there are some changes, and also it was the little extras, so the little things that you don't miss. So like for example, when I was having poached egg on toast, I really missed the fact that there was no butter on my toast, and it's little things like that that I couldn't afford in the budget. I couldn't, and I thought it would be okay, and yeah, you know, it was okay, it was alright, but it makes the difference between food just being okay and food being kind of nice and enjoyable. And it's things like that that over time, obviously if you're on a really restricted budget, they're the things that you don't get the chance to buy. I think the biggest disappointment in terms of the food that I bought was the instant oats. I had on my list to just buy porridge oats, and in hindsight I wish I'd bought those and not the flavoured like instant sachets. I was making them with water to make the milk last longer for my cups of tea, and it just, yeah, I just wasn't a fan. And so I think, and to be fair, this is reflective of me normally, I skipped breakfast or only had a cup of tea most of the time, and to be honest, I don't eat breakfast that often normally, but I was disappointed by those. They sounded so much better than they actually were, but that's just me. And maybe if I'd done this in winter, then porridge on a morning would have been like a welcome start, but it's been fairly warm and it was just the last thing I wanted to eat, and rather than force myself to eat it, I was quite happy to go without instead. So things that I've got left, bear in mind I kind of bought what seemed like quite a lot. If you haven't seen the video where I show you what I bought for my money, then I'll leave a link below to that. But I've got 1 egg left, I've got almost the whole jar of peanut butter, and I'll talk about that in a second. I've got 2 bananas left, I've got about 1/3 of a loaf of bread left, and I've got the majority of the tea bags. So I like to buy quite a big box of tea bags. The smallest one they do was 80. So of course I've not gone through 80 tea bags in a week, so there's loads of those left, so actually I think I'll probably take those into work. The peanut butter, so saying about the instant oats being the biggest disappointment, actually the peanut butter was a very close second. It just wasn't very nice. And I'm someone who I really like peanut butter on toast. I quite often have it in porridge, and yeah, I just didn't like it. So I think I used that once during the week for breakfast, or maybe was it lunch? Might have been lunch, and didn't have it again. And I think I'm not going to throw it out. I think I'll use it. I've got a recipe on my blog for peanut butter banana loaf, and I'll leave a link below for that. I think I'll probably use it in that, and the 2 bananas that are left over because they're kind of past it. So I think that's a plan for those. But I've used everything else. So I used the chilli sauce, was really nice. I feel like I might get some of that to have in the cupboard as kind of a standby. It had kidney beans in the sauce as well, because I talked about the fact that I normally put kidney beans in a chilli, but I'd not got any. Actually, they were a welcome surprise in the sauce itself. The mixed vegetables, so the frozen mixed veg, just kind of, you know, yeah, every day, but fab in the chilli and in the little shepherd's pie that I made as well. They're also great to have in the freezer just to kind of bulk things out, I suppose. That worked well. I really liked the yoghurt and the banana. The yoghurts were, again, not something I particularly eat very often, but that was a welcome change for breakfast one morning, was that yoghurt with the banana. Just, and again, I think that's because it was so warm, so that was quite a refreshing breakfast. The thing that I found hardest was definitely the repetition. And even things like, so I got tea bags, but I drink lots of tea and coffee in a day, and I'd miss my coffee. I couldn't get a coffee cheap enough in the budget. And I feel like if I'm going to do this again, so first of all, has anyone got any suggestions for which supermarket to do next? So I've done Morrison's and I've now done Aldi. I'll leave a link below to the Morrison's video about this. Does anyone have a suggestion for which supermarket to try next? I don't know how close the nearest Tesco is. Where should I go next? Leave them down below. And I also mentioned, and this is like a trigger warning for kind of weight talk and calories just for a minute, another point to make out, and obviously if you were having to do this long term, then this is something to take into account. I didn't get anywhere near as many calories as is the recommended amount for a woman per day. Nowhere near. Even with the peanut butter, although I guess I added that to 2 things, I didn't get anywhere near the recommended daily amount of calories. And I lost 3 pounds in 1 week, which is not great, again, if you're doing this all the time. I wasn't doing this for weight loss, it was something just to track. But if you're living on a restricted budget all the time, unless you're really kind of careful about what you're eating, getting the right amount of stuff is difficult. And also I really missed the fresh stuff, so I eat kind of salad on the side of quite a few. So if I was having a jack and potato, I normally have a salad on the side of that, for example. And I just missed fruit as well, so we eat a lot of fruit in our household, and I'd got the bananas and that was it. And I was worried about fruit anyway, and it showed. So yeah, so there are definite things to do with if you're doing this on a long-term basis that you have to be mindful of. So getting enough calorie intake and 5 a day is really difficult. And yeah, weight loss or kind of weight wasn't part of it, and I know some people don't like to talk about weight and things, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not one to talk about that either, but it's something to point out that I didn't go anywhere near that calorie suggestion, if you like, at all on any day. Let me know down below how you think I've done. which meal would be your favourite out of the ones I did. I feel like I wasn't as creative this time, but that's that. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, and also where should I go next for my next £10 a week challenge. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon.